Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we are looking at a new White Kyurem card, which could actually be pretty gosh darn tasty in a number of decks. Now, the good news is, we've actually just looked at White Kyurem GX. I've just brought you news that it's actually doing very well over in Japan, did very well at the Japanese National Championships, and now we've got a non-GX coming in Sun and Moon 7A, Thunderclap Spark, which is looking pretty gosh darn good. And before I forget, I should mention that this was revealed and translated over at pokerbeach.com. So, let's look at the basics. It's got 130 HP, which is great because it can take a hit from Zoroark GX. 130 is one of those really crucial numbers at the moment. Yay, go White Kyurem, etc. It is a water Pokemon, meaning that you can use Brooklet Hill to go and search it out, which is always quite nice, and you do have access to Aqua Patch to accelerate a little bit of energy. Yeah, the retreat cost is a little bit high, but the good news is weakness to metal means that Duskmane Necrozma won't get a one-hit KO with Claw Slash, because you've got 130 HP, so at least initially things are looking pretty good, although in terms of weakness you're really not hitting much. Best fire Pokemon at the moment? Ho-Oh! Oh wait, it's weak to lightning, boo, hiss, etc. So it's got two attacks, and they're both pretty useful. First attack, double colorless energy, which means you can use a double colorless energy, makes it very techable into any deck at all. It does 30 damage, and discards your opponent's stadium in play. And this is a classic example of an attack which probably isn't particularly good right now, but could be very, very good in the future. Now, doing 30 damage is pretty low. Now, if you had a choice band, it goes up to 60, and if you're hitting for weakness, it goes up to 120, and that's really good. But there's nothing you're really hitting for weakness at the moment that's an EX or a GX. You could argue Volcanion, but firstly, that will have rotated by the time this comes out. And secondly, it's really not seeing much play. Now, Turtonator GX does see a little bit of play, but it really is just as a tech in Ho-Oh decks. Maybe in the future, we'll have something better. At the moment, it's not that relevant. But here's the thing. For essentially one energy attachment, because you'll be using a double colorless, you could be doing 120 damage. That's very nice. Then, of course, you get to discard your opponent's stadium in play. Now, again, at the moment, this isn't particularly great. Now, according to the translation we have, and this may or may not be correct, it usually is, but we've all seen mistranslations of Japanese cards. As I always say, we do need to wait for confirmation and an English scan before we are 100% sure, but it is only your opponent's stadium in play, i.e. if you play a stadium, you can't take advantage of this to get rid of it. Bit of a pain, I know, bit upsetting, I get it. But unfortunately, that is the way it is, and there's very little we can do about it. The good news is, sometimes you'll want to get rid of their stadium. They will have put a parallel city down. This is more of an expanded thing, because that should have rotated. So that you've got a limited bench, you can get rid of it. Or maybe an expanded, you're playing against a Zoroark deck, your opponent really wants their Skyfield to do a whole bunch of extra damage, you can get rid of it. I mean, one of the things that is coming out quite soon is Thunder Mountain. It's coming out in the same set. I did a video the other day, I'll try and remember to pop a link in the description, and it's a ridiculous stadium that reduces the attack cost of lightning Pokemon on their attacks by 1 lightning energy. It's crazy good. And it can't be removed by items, cards like Field Blower. This would be a good way of getting rid of that. So if you're against a lightning deck, yeah, you're only doing 30 damage for a double colorless energy, that's a bit of a pain. But the fact that you're bumping their stadium, and that's a fairly difficult thing to do, is pretty gosh darn sweet. And that's kind of the point of this. It is a 2 energy card, which you can drop into a deck if you're really worried about stadiums. Because some people don't play stadiums. Now, to be fair, White Kyurem decks will probably play Brooklet Hill, but this can be played in any deck. And if you're not playing any stadium, but you're worried that you're going to be done in by Thunder Mountain, you could just put 1 copy of this in, and then when your opponent drops the Thunder Mountain, this comes in, 30 damage, gets rid of it. We may end up in the future in a situation where there is a good fire deck that really relies on stadiums, And this will be utterly amazing against that, because you are countering both the stadium and the, presumably at least, water weakness. That'll be amazing. As it is at the moment, useful, but probably better in the future. And we do have a second attack here as well, and it is pretty good. Water, colourless, 80 damage. If this Pokemon has any fire energy attached to it, this attack does 80 more damage, 160 in total. And this, to be perfectly blunt, hits the numbers beautifully. Because now you add a choice band on here, you're hitting 190. Buzzwole, Lapras, Ultra Necrozma. I could keep going, but you hopefully get the point here. 190 hits a lot of stuff. You could get a Tapu Lele with a Fighting Fury bout, but by this stage, you would have to be in the expanded format to do so. Sorry about that. It's going to have rotated. So you can hit the numbers really nicely here and get some big GX KOs on a single prize non-GX Pokemon. But that energy cost is a little bit awkward. Not terrible, but it's a little bit awkward. You see, even in purely water decks, you've got access to Aqua Patch, but then not only do you need to play fire energy to use this, but you've got to somehow get the fire energy on, and that's getting super awkward. But, and I'm sure a lot of you have figured this out by now, White Kyurem isn't a Pokemon that's made to be played with fire energy. White Kyurem is a Pokemon that's made to be played with counter energy. Counter energy works here beautifully, because if you play a counter energy, then the energy cost becomes 1 colourless energy, 1 counter energy, which is a darn sight more manageable. You still got to get the counter energy, bit of a pain, and you still got to get the other energy, so it is 2 energy attachments, but you're hitting 190 damage with a choice band. I'm okay with that, ladies and gentlemen. That sounds acceptable to me. It is clearly a very, very good attack, and yes, the attack cost is a little bit of a pain, and I refuse to sit here and say that it's not. But I think it might be worth it. Now, if we look at another example, we've got Keldeo. Keldeo from Shining Legends is, at the moment, my go-to water Pokemon with counter energy. I think it's the best we've got. And for a counter energy, it does 20 damage, plus 20 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. But even if they've got a full bench and you've got a choice band, you're only doing 150. That's not enough to get KOs on GX Pokemon. Now, if they're weak to water, fine, but if they're not, that's a pain. This is significantly better than Keldeo, because it's significantly harder hitting. Plus, it also happens to have 130 HP, so it can take a hit from a Zoroark, etc. To put it bluntly, it's worth it. It's annoying, and I don't like having to use a counter energy and another energy. But if you can get this in a turn, maybe even play an Aqua Patch and a counter energy, or any other way of accelerating energy like a Max Elixir, again, that will have to be an expanded, and a counter energy, and can get this going in one turn, it really is going to be phenomenal. I love this. It hits the numbers. To be perfectly blunt with you, ladies and gentlemen, it hits the numbers. It's worth it. Yeah, it's a counter energy and a base and another, well, it doesn't have to be a basic, a counter energy and another energy, but if you can get a one-hit KO on a GX Pokemon using a non-GX Pokemon, that will swing the game into your favour. Of course, if you're playing a fire deck, you could put some random water energy in there, but again, it's getting a little bit awkward. Or maybe you're playing a fire deck and you play 1 fire energy and 1 counter energy. Either way, I'm giving this between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. It's not a stunningly, amazingly card because of the attack cost. But I do like this first attack as a tech, especially if we end up with a good fire deck in the future. And I love this second attack, even given the attack cost. You're getting one-hit KOs on GXs. I've said that a couple of times, but it kind of needs to be stated quite clearly, because it is the great thing about the card. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to hear from you. I want to know what you think about this card. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! but be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do check out my video game /Dragon Ball Super channel, Wassy Plays, for some more Wassy action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.